doing this while I'm on a walk today. Most of the videos that I've done are always typically in the car. I figured this one, since I didn't go to the gym today because it's a weekday and one of my rest days, I figured I'll just share the things I want to share about right now. It's not as private when I do it out in public because there's like other voices that people that might not necessarily be on the same wavelength, frequency, or understanding that you and I are on. That could also just be a way of being able to say, like, you know, we just have a different view of the world. It's kind of like apples on a tree or something along those lines. Some apples are more ripe than others. It doesn't discourage or discredit any of the other apples. With all that being said, today, this month has just started basically for me. By the time you're watching, it might not be that point, but with that, dude, it's so much different me doing this out here. Before, I could never do something like this. Hey, it was very difficult for me to do things like this. But basically today, all I've done thus far, or all I did a lot, dude. I've been doing a lot these past couple of days. Like, at least creating a lot. I don't know what's going to happen with the creation things that I am creating, but I am still creating a lot nonetheless, which is great. Like, I ended up doing, I think, 21 shorts for one of the channels that I have, and then I record 3 long form videos. So I almost have like a full month's worth of content for one of the other channels, where I'm also offering like one-on-one coaching. I'm just trying to like put out as much as I possibly can out there. So I have like years of experience, I have years of knowledge, I've helped a lot of other people. So now it's just like, who's gonna bite? Like, how many lines can I toss out until somebody does bite? And maybe it's you, maybe it's not you, I don't know. But my main thing is, I was talking to one of my buddies about this the other day, and he's like, I want to start looking for a new job. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then the new job, I was like, well, like, it's like, but I don't want to just constantly be applying to all these different places. And I was like, well, you don't have to be constantly applying to all these different places. I mean, if you don't want to. But I'm also under the impression it's best to get as much out there as you possibly can, just for the pure reason that if I can get as much out there, as many lines cast, I used a fishing analogy with him, and I'll use the fishing analogy with you as well too. Like, if you're new to fishing and you don't know all the good spots to go, or what bait the fish start to like, and if you haven't done any type of like research around the fish because maybe you don't have access to the internet, or you don't have access to these other ways of being able to acquire whatever you're wanting to acquire, then I've always been under the impression it's best to cast out as many lines as you possibly can, and then go with the one that sticks or the one that bites. You don't know if food's going to work, you don't know if place is going to work, you don't know how deep you need to cast your line. You don't know until you test it. So I do a lot of these own personal tests myself, just because I've found that to be much more valuable for me. Plus, I also just like getting out as much as I possibly can, because like I like creating, like sharing these ideas, I like researching it. I just enjoy being able to have these type of talks and or discussions with you. So I keep doing it, and I figure like maybe if it inspires you, cool. If not, so be it. But I'm just like, this is the amount of work that I myself do, and I figure like there's this thing where like there's a cause and effect. So like whatever you put out is what you get back. Maybe I'm not applying the work in the correct places. Then again, maybe I'm applying the work in the exact places that it needs to be. And I wouldn't say this is the tough part, but this is just one of the parts that I've had to realize myself, is sometimes the work, it's not even sometimes, the work is the work. And if you don't enjoy the work, then what's the point in doing anything at all? And once I realized, after going on this trip, and I keep having this thought pop into my mind as well, like I went on this trip and I became more aware, more conscious of the things that I was doing, perceiving, and experiencing. And I remember that after the first time when it happened, I just sat in awe of like, there's no way that this is true. And then I go out and I test it over and over and over again. I'm like, oh, okay, this thing is true. there is no separation between the internal and the external state, even though we may have been led to believe that there is a separation between the internal and the external state. But I've come to realize that it's all one and the same, because like I can't get into your head and know the thoughts that you're thinking just as much as you can't get into my head, know the thoughts that I'm thinking. It's also this whole notion that like you didn't even know that I existed until you found this video. I also like that garage quite a bit. Same thing with the door. You didn't know that I existed until you found this video and you stumbled upon this video, because this video was drawn to you because I had something that I needed to say that you needed to hear. And to the people that get that, the people get that. To the people that don't, they don't. Because I know that these videos, the things that I talk about, to me, and I'll actually use this analogy instead. So I was talking, same friend from earlier, about casting a wide net, be able to find a job. It's the same thing where I was telling him, you got some good noises now. It's the same thing that I was telling him, where it's just like, I don't know how to speak Spanish. I don't know how to speak like French or Japanese or German, but the people that do, they know how to understand those things. So it's kind of the same concept as to what I'm talking about right now, is not everybody's gonna be able to understand the words that are coming out of my mouth, just as they won't be able to understand the words that are coming out of your mouth. Like, they'll be able to understand them. They just won't be able to understand them in the same way or in the same regard that you are wanting them to be understood in. And this is just a realization that I've come to, because people that know Spanish, they can correlate and understand each other's conversation. Whereas me, as an outside, a third party, I have no idea what they're talking about unless I spent the years and the time studying how to understand. I like how they're doing that with fence too. Understanding how. Sorry about the extra noise too. But this is what I'm saying. Like, sometimes there's certain things that'll come up that might prevent us, and this is why I like doing more of the stuff inside of the car. But see, and then it stops. So this is where I say, like, me as a third party listening to two native Spanish speakers, I don't know what they're saying unless I spent the years acquiring that information, that knowledge. So it's the same thing with what you're listening to right now, is you won't understand this unless you're on that same life path, that same life journey that I myself am on. And I didn't understand this concept for quite some time. And now that I do, I'm like, oh, okay. And it just makes sense. Like, beforehand, it never did. Like, I just never understood it. It just didn't resonate with me. It was very confusing. And then after I started to try it out a little bit more, I was like, oh, okay, this is real. Because then after I ended up coming back and just testing it out more and more, some, like, the people that I would run into, the experiences that I would have, I was like, okay, this is kind of a trip. Because first I would see it in my mind, and then it would just happen outwardly. And at first, I was shocked. I was like, this is crazy. Like, how is this working? And I left everything that I had behind me, because I was like, I need to figure this out more. Because, like, if I can have anything that I've ever wanted in my life, then might as well go take this leap to go do this said thing that I didn't know even existed at all in the first place. And then through that process, it's like I grow, I learn, I evolve. I've had multiple different experiences with multiple different people that I never realized that I would meet or interact with. I've had these experiences with so many different people. Because even my buddy too, he's like, well, what if they're just so attuned to this said thing? I was like, I thought about that quite a bit. And it's just like, they very well could be, but there's still just an aspect that I can't comprehend. Like, there's just, to me, and maybe it's just a lack of knowledge, it very well could be, but for me it just is like, there's nothing can explain a certain event that had happened other than, like, I created that thing out of thin air. It happens more than not. Like, I've been on hikes, and all of a sudden, like, I'll be walking and talking about something, and then we find that something that we were talking about, and I'm like, look at that. And people are like, oh no, like, that's just a coincidence. And I'm like, I don't know about that. Because, like, even this one time, like, I was on a little mountain staying up somewhere, and I ended up, like, just being there. And I was like, yeah, like, what if we had Doritos? And I lift up my leg and there's Doritos, and I'm like, okay, this is a trip. So I'm like, it's real, and some people won't necessarily believe it's real. So this is where I say, like, I just like putting stuff out there, because I don't know what's gonna land, I don't know what's gonna stick, I don't know what's gonna resonate. But I'd rather just put stuff out there that comes to me Like, yeah, I do find new information from like reading and listening to books and like reading comments or reading discussions or like certain threads. I'm like, okay, maybe I can incorporate something into this said experience that I didn't originally or couldn't have incorporated in the first place because I didn't have that basic understanding of the knowledge required to do that. Whereas now I have these different points that I didn't originally have, and why I'm like, I'd rather just create the type of things that I want to create and share the type of things that I want to share, because nobody can copy me. Some people may be like, well, that's the incorrect way of doing it. But like, is it? Like, if I know that this is going to the right person, if I know that this person, such as yourself, is hearing what needs to be heard, then I did the thing that I needed to do.